Hello again, thank you for waiting, and welcome to our live session today, Enhansers, cutting-edge search substrates made with VSP technology for quick and clear molecular analysis. My name is Andrei Linka, I'm content creator for VSPARTICLE, and I will co-host today's session together with engineer Eke van Vught, who is also CEO for VSPARTICLE. Before we get into today's topic, I would like to walk you through today's agenda. We will be discussing handling questions during the presentation, webinar recording, and upcoming events. I will then provide you with ways in which you can get in contact with us and request additional information. I'll provide you with a short introduction about VSPARTICLE for those who are not yet familiarized with what we do before we move on to the presentation and give the floor to Eke. The last part of the webinar is in charge with answering your questions. We are taking questions during the webinar and we'll try to answer all of them after the presentation has ended. However, for the questions that remain unanswered, we will do a follow-up email. So it's very important that if you don't have a Teams account, next to your question, please leave your email so that we can reach you. You can find the chat room in your bottom right corner, the icon with the question mark. Please don't forget that during the session you are on mute. So whatever questions or remarks you might have, please post them in the chat box. This webinar session will be recorded and we will send you a link in the coming days so you can share with your colleagues or watch it later. For upcoming events in January, we will have a new webinar, Accelerating Gas Sensor Composition Screening with the VSP-P1 Nanostructured Material Printer. The premiering date for this webinar is yet to be announced, so keep a close eye to our website and our LinkedIn account. There are many ways in which you can get in contact with us, and we are happy to provide additional information. If you would like to know more about VSPARTICLE solutions and how they can help you in speeding up your research, you can check our other application pages for more information at www.vsparticle.com/applications. If you are interested in trying out VSPARTICLE technology, you can do so by requesting a demo and try it in the safety of your own lab. Please check the form available at www.vsparticle.com or email us at demo@vsparticle.com. For any other information, please get in contact with our sales department, sales@vsparticle.com. VSPARTICLE is a spin-off company of TU Delft, located in the Netherlands. With over 20 years of experience in the synthesis of aerosols and with the help of a team of passionate engineers and scientists, VSPARTICLE is unlocking a whole new world of possibilities at the nanoscale. As we all start to understand these possibilities, it will enable research and industry to rethink production processes and develop new materials to create innovative applications. We develop and commercialize completely new technology to automate the production of new materials, and we are key nanotechnology providers in different industries like catalysis, semicon, and health. At VSPARTICLE, we provide products enabling the production of nanostructured materials for fundamental and applied research based on a simple to operate and scalable principle. And here you can see a layout of our current portfolio. With this, I will wrap up my introduction and I will give the floor to Eke, who will dive into today's topic. I will see you at the end of the presentation when we will take your question and proceed to answering them. Thank you so much, and Eke, you have the floor.
Thanks, Andrea, for this nice introduction. So today I want to talk to you about our latest developments towards bringing new applications into high volume markets. And the first one is Surface Enhanced Raman Spectroscopy. To explain you how this works and how this evolved out of VSPARTICLE, I would like to go through the following agenda. First, extend the nice company introduction that Andrea already gave. Then do a little bit more deep dive on our technology. And then how we are using our technology to make SERS, these advanced substrates for molecular diagnostics. And then last, how to collaborate with us if you are looking into more solutions in this area. So as mentioned, VSPARTICLE is really a key nanotechnology provider for different industries. We have strategic partnerships in catalysis, semicon, and healthcare. And in the essence, we are focusing on accelerating the development time of new materials, and thereby also making sure that new products are brought into the market quicker by enabling nanoparticle-based production. So from our perspective, nanoparticles are really key enablers to unlock a new material paradigm. Because if you break up bulk materials into very small particles, this is also where our name comes from, VSPARTICLE, we are able to change the material properties due to quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics are physical laws that are primarily happening at a very small scale. So on macroscopic materials, you don't have a lot of quantum mechanics taking apart, but the moment you break up bulk materials into these very small sub 10 nanometer particles, quantum mechanics becomes really alive. If you look into the right corner, bottom corner, you can see a nice graph where you see the melting temperature on one axis and the particle diameter on the other one. And what you see is that gold, this is about gold, normally has a melting temperature of 1060 degrees Celsius. But if you break up gold into nano gold or nanoparticles, and you make the diameter of the particle smaller and smaller, then you see this almost exponential change in the melting temperature. And this drastic change in this physical property is what we are trying to capture by enabling nanoparticle-based manufacturing of new materials. Because it's not only the melting temperature that is drastically changing, it's also electrical and thermal conductivity of the material, the stiffness, optical properties, so how it interacts with photons, how it interacts with molecules, so in the field of catalysis, and whether or not it has a magnetic moment. So most of the important physical properties of a material we are able to change, and thereby unlocking an enormous amount of new materials that we are able to create. So the essential problem that VSPARTICLE is trying to solve is that the development time of a new material is at the moment still 15 to 20 years time, due to the fact that it's still a very time-consuming and costly process. So if you look into the right, introducing a next generation fuel cell or lithium-ion battery takes 20 years of development, which is out of sync to forge the timeline of investors, but also government agencies, but also at the moment towards climate crisis. So if you're looking into the Paris Agreement, we don't need next generation fuel cells or solar cells 20 years from now. No, we need them tomorrow, or we already needed them last year. And what we do is at VSPARTICLE, we develop groundbreaking nanotechnology to reduce this 20-year timeline to almost 2 years, or maybe even shorter. And by doing this, we are making material development really accessible to a broader audience. At the moment, it's only the big companies like Intel or Samsung that have a sufficient funding budget to invest, let's say, 20 years into the development of a new material. But what if we could reduce this development time to just 2 years, then also smaller companies could start investing in it, really opening up a new paradigm of materials. So material development, but also the associated application development / product development and scaling up towards mass production has been primarily done by two type of organizations. So the fundamental material research and the initial steps of applied research are primarily done by universities and institutes, which have the right infrastructure to do these studies. And then when there is a good proof of principle of a new material enabling a new generation of high-tech product, then a commercial company takes it over and brings it from the fundamental stage all the way to mass production. And jointly, these two phases, fundamental and then application development, mass production, these are taking 20 years in time today. So what VSPARTICLE does is we provide simplistic solutions to both researchers and industry to overall reduce this timeline to as short as we can. For research, we are providing a unique solution which we call nanoparticles at the push of a button. So a really simplistic automated process to make nanoparticle samples. And for industry, we are co-creating new developments, but primarily developing scalable technology for mass production of these new applications. So coming back to the first one, I want to show you a short movie of how our nanoparticles at the push of a button technology looks like. So this is our VSP-P1, our desktop nanoparticle generator, which is the basis of our nanoaerosol process technology. The process consists out of 3 steps: generation, processing, and deposition. In generation, we are using 2 conductive electrodes and then bypass of the carrier gas. By using electrical sparks in between the 2 conductive electrodes, we are ablating a small fraction of the material, forming a highly dense nanoaerosol. During transport, you will see that the nanoaerosols will start to grow when they are collide into each other. And we have quite well control over this growth phase. So thereby we can steer the particle size. In the deposition phase, which is directly connected, we have different ways to immobilize the nanoparticles. The first one is diffusion. So we use diffusional forces. The second one is filtration, just getting the gas, the nanoaerosol through a membrane. And the third one is impaction, accelerating the nanoparticles to such a high velocity that they are just bombarded on the flat substrate. We can play with the electrodes, so we can mix or switch them to different, we can mix them or process alloys. We can play with the gas composition, so making metal oxides. All the green elements you can see on the slide are being processed with the same equipment. Playing with the flow rate, we can change the particle distribution quite effectively. Combining different systems gives us the flexibility in mixing different nanoparticles or different nanoaerosols together, making all kinds of complex compounds. So the system, the key benefit of the system is really reduction in your sample preparation time. At the moment, we see almost a 10x reduction with our first customers. So what normally took them months in sample preparation can now be done in days or maybe even in hours. So the second part is really where we focus on strategic partnerships with mass manufacturers to provide them with the ideal technology for mass production. To do this effectively, this solution is split up in 3 segments. The first one is really a contract research service where we co-optimize the product that the customer is interested in. And we can use all our facilities to do those experiments. The second phase, when we have optimized the product and the production process, we can start initial production at VSP with our flexible production facility. And then if we really go into a high volume manufacturing, we can find a tailor-made solution either at the customer or at a contract manufacturer provider, or maybe VSP can scale up production facilities. So coming forward to our technology, I think the essence you have already seen in the short movie that I presented before, but I will dive in a little bit deeper. So what in the essence we are developing is a nanoaerosol process technology. It's a fully integrated solution where we are generating in the first step our nanoaerosols directly from bulk materials by using these electrical sparks you've seen in the movie. And then during characterization and modification, we are basically inline checking how those aerosols are forming and what the concentrations are. And then at the last stage, we are depositing or 3D printing them into the right structure. This whole solution is done in a few milliseconds. So really from the beginning to the end, it's all an integrated solution, giving you the full flexibility of making the desired product. So why is this technology so unique? It's unique because it's combining two aspects. One, the aspect of additive manufacturing. Because of this special printing head that we have developed, we are able to print very locally. So compared to thin film deposition, which is normally globally deposition, that gives us a unique capability. But we're also combining the pureness of materials that you normally see in thin film deposition, so in semicon manufacturing. I can show you a movie where you can see the printing of our logo with silver nanoparticles. So here you can really see the printing process in action. Again, one of the key features of the technology is the fact that it's material agnostic. It means that it doesn't really matter for the process if it's processing nickel, for example, or titanium. Due to the spark and the very high temperature that is in the plasma of this spark, most of the materials that are solid and have sufficient conductivity can be processed with the same ease of use. Again, there's enormous flexibility also in mixing different compounds. So we can use two electrodes of the same material producing the same nanoparticles. We can mix different elements by using two different electrodes. And we can also process sintered or alloyed electrodes, giving us the full control of elemental composition in the nanoparticles. And then last, we can play with configurations of multiple nanoparticle generators and making all kinds of compounds. And we can play with gas composition to make oxides or maybe even borides or nitrides. Again, the process really starts with a solid rod of the material you want to make into a nanoparticle, so the electrode, which makes the system easy to use. But also, if you want to switch from one material to the other, it can really be done in the order of 10 to 15 minutes of swapping the electrodes in the VSP-P1. So the final step is really the deposition step, where we are 3D printing in an additive way the nanoparticles on the support. So we developed a special printing process, which is taking place at the ROF vacuum, so 0.2 millibars. The printing stage is 15 by 15 centimeters at the moment. We have full control over X, Y, and Z. The position accuracy is 10 micron, and the spot size can be variated between 0.01 and 1 centimeter, depending on the printing head that we are using. So substrates that we are now focusing on are MEMS chips, glass plates, the SER substrates that I will discuss in more detail later on, but also wafers or flexible polymers if you want to look into flexible electronics. So this is an overview of what you can get as a result. So on the right top corner, you can see a gold pattern printed directly on a soft polymer, in this case a contact lens. If you zoom into one of these bars, you see this nice line of material deposited. And if you zoom into the material, you really see this nanoporous layer appearing. So this is really what makes our process unique, is that the fact that if we are stacking those nanoparticles on top of each other in our printing process, that you get this highly porous layer, which is really unique in different industries. It's quite difficult or almost impossible to make the same porosity using other methods. So two examples of these nanoporous layers. So on the left you see the copper oxide nanoparticles, and on the right you see gold. And in both cases you get nice porosity. And this porosity is also a key feature that we are currently using in scaling up the production of SERS sensors for molecular diagnostics. So this is an overview of the current manufacturing. So on the left you see the VSP IND1, which is our industrial system, which has a production capacity up to 10,000 sensors per month. But we are taking measures to even increase it up towards 50,000 or even later 100,000 chips per month. You can see how the products are being produced. They are produced in batches, up to 90 sensors per time. And then this is how the final product looks like. So again, in the essence, this is the overview of the process. We start with solid materials, so the rods, the electrodes that we put into the VSP-P1. The process is driven by primarily electricity, which can come from renewable sources. So it's a really sustainable manufacturing process. Combining those two in our printers gives you the possibility to break up the bulk material into nanoparticles, then additively produce them into the desired pattern, and then by using the unique features of this nano-porous layer, you can make all kinds of new high-tech products. So last part, going more into the SERS application. So detecting molecules has become really important over the last decades. There are more and more situations where we need to have more understanding of the world around us. You can think about controlling what's coming in at the borders of different countries, so border security. You can think about testing, let's say, pesticide concentrations, but also bacteria for food safety, quality control of medicine production. Lastly, there's been a lot of news coming around toxic trace elements in, for example, paracetamol production. So you really want to get those trace amounts of toxic chemicals out of your final product, but also environmental control. Due to all the medicines that are produced today, you see more and more of them appearing in surface water, and to keep track on the pollution in those surface water basins, you want to have better on-the-spot capabilities to detect those trace amounts. So the global market of molecular diagnostics has really been growing, and at the moment it's valued at $9.2 billion US dollars. Raman spectroscopy, which is where we are primarily focused on, is really one of the leading molecular spectroscopies used. The key advantage of Raman spectroscopy, it's very versatile. Due to its fingerprinting capability. I will come back to the fingerprinting capability slightly later. It's quick. You can have your result in seconds, but primarily it's been it already has this enormous development seen in the past, where we've seen the miniaturization of the devices. So Raman spectroscopy started off with really big desktop R&D tools, but due to all the manufacturing developments, you now see more and more handheld devices coming up, which makes them useful for point-of-use situations. So you can take the device with you to where you want to detect the molecules, and then you can measure them on the spot. So the global market of portable handheld spectroscopy in the US was valuated at $115 million in 2017. So what about this fingerprinting? So how does Raman spectroscopy work? So step one, you point the laser or the Raman spectrometer towards the molecule that you want to detect. Step two, you will get this Raman spectra, which is this this graph you can see in the device, these peaks. And these peaks are giving you a molecular fingerprint of the material that you are analyzing. And that's why the system is so versatile, because different molecules will have a different fingerprint. So to even improve Raman spectroscopy, because it can be improved, people have been developing Surface Enhanced Raman Spectroscopy substrates. So by using state-of-the-art nanotechnology to fabricate nanostructured layers, you are able to drastically enhance the Raman scattering, so the creation of this fingerprinting process. If you look to the right, I have one example where you see a Raman spectra, the blue line, without this SERS substrate, this Surface Enhanced capability. So you see almost no peaks. But then if you do the same measurement with a SERS substrate, you see a drastic enhancement of all the peaks, giving you the capability to really detect that we are working with DTT in this case. So what are the key benefits of SERS? The first one, of course, is the enhancement factor. It's 10 to the power 11, but on average you see a 10 to the power 6 to 10 to the power 8 enhancement of your Raman signal. It's very powerful, so it has been proven to even do single molecule detection, going down to parts per million or parts per billion is practical. So you can do multiplexing, so you can measure different analytes at the same time, especially if the peaks of the analytes are not in the same area, otherwise they are overlapping. And again, it's really fast, so it gives you the possibility to do high throughput experimentation or high throughput analysis. But as mentioned, it requires this surface or this nanostructured layer, and that's also where VSPARTICLE comes into place. So with our unique patented technology, this Nanoaerosol processing technology, we are able to print uniquely structured nanomaterials directly on this glass substrate, which have been proven to give huge enhancement. So this SERS substrate is a product that VSPARTICLE brings or has taken into production and brings it to the market via our new brand, Enhansers. And on the right, you can see a nice graph where we have analyzed rhodamine 6G, and you see the nice enhancement peak coming off of the Raman spectroscopy. So again, Enhansers is really a sub-brand of VSPARTICLE. It's the brand that we are using to bring these chips into the market. So besides the products that we are providing, primarily you're also able to buy these SERS substrates directly from us. So again, how does SERS really work? So you start with our advanced chip. You deposit your liquid solution on it, on this active area. In this case, we added some rhodamine to the liquid solution. Then again, you shine your Raman spectrometer on this active area. So that's step 2. Then you will get this enhancement of the Raman spectra. So you see brighter peaks. And then on the right, you can see again this nice spectra that was created from rhodamine. And the key feature of VSPARTICLE technology is that we have so much flexibility towards different materials, towards different structures that we can print, that we have enormous capability to optimize this active layer, this active nanostructured layer for your desired molecule. Another example next to rhodamine is, for example, where we are working on at the moment to detect COVID. So you can also put a liquid solution or a liquid droplet with a COVID specimen onto this chip and then do the same measurement to get the indication whether or not this liquid contains COVID. And this can also be used to develop a quick on-the-spot COVID test, which could help relieving the pressure at the moment on our healthcare system. So I gave you a short introduction about SERS. If you want to know more, or if you want to see more validation of our current developments, again, please get in contact to us. Last, how to collaborate with VSPARTICLE. So basically it works as follows. Step 1, if you get in contact with us and you identify or you share with us the molecule that you would like to detect, then we have all the tools and all the knowledge in-house to quickly optimize our nanostructured layer for your specific molecule. So to get the highest enhancement factor. And then if you optimize the product for your case, and it's nicely integrated with this handheld Raman spectrometer, we can start up production, which is done by VSPARTICLE initially, but could also be transferred to the customer's location. So again, if you know which molecule you want to detect, at what concentrations, we can quickly optimize the solution for your specific needs. So with that in mind, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to all the fruitful discussions we can have afterwards. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Eke. I hope everyone found this presentation interesting and insightful. We will now proceed to take the questions and to answering them. Give me a few seconds to collect them. Okay, first question. What is the reproducibility of these chips?
Thanks. That's a good question. So one of the main bottlenecks in current manufacturing technologies for CERS is the low reproducibility. And you really want to make sure that every chip that you are using has the same enhancement. So then you can really trust or make comparisons between two measurements. We are striving, so we already see a good reproducibility in the order of 10 to 15%. But we are striving for a 5% reproducibility between every chip. The reason that we are able to create high reproducibility is due to the enormous amount of control we have in this nanoaerosol processing technology, because we do this inline characterization of the nanoparticles.
Thank you so much, Eke. Moving on to the second questions. On which materials can you print?
Again, a very good question. In the presentation, I showed you that we printed the material directly on this glass plate. But in the essence, the process is substrate agnostic also. So we can print on paper, we can print on plastics, we can print on the substrate of your desire.
Thank you. And now moving to the last question of today's session. How scalable is the technology? Again,
a very good question. Since our aim is really to bring these CERS chips into a mass market, so millions of units per year, we have drafted a quite clear and feasible scaling plan to scale our technology by both numbering up the number of nanoparticle generators per manufacturing system, but also scaling up to new generations of nanoparticle sources. So it's highly scalable, and we already have a clear path ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eke. I hope this answered your question. I know I said last question, but please let's take another one. What's the approximate surface density thickness of the layer of the nanoparticles?
So the density of the nanoparticles is something that we are currently investigating, but for time being, we estimate it at 50% density.
Okay, thank you so much. And with this, we will wrap up today's session. Thank you everyone for being here, and we hope you found this presentation interesting. If you did, you can always request free CERS samples by going to the Enhansers website, www.enhansers.com, or you can write us at sales information. Thank you so much for being here, and from me and Eke, we wish you a very good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.